Hello everyone. Today an article about Air Canada who had to search a Muslim girl and how the media ran with it and has made this into something that I suspect it is not. They blew it completely out of proportion. And it's just another example of how Islam is not compatible with the West. We can't, it seems to me we can't ask Muslims to follow any of our normal security checkpoints without them screaming discrimination or racism, which is exactly what happened in this case. So the girl claimed that she had passed security and therefore there should be no reason for the gate personnel to check her before she goes on the flight, but they did, and they asked her to remove her hijab because the photo in the passport does not have a hijab on. So she was asked to remove her hijab so they can compare it to the picture in the passport. And they asked her to remove the scarf and she said no. And so then they escorted her to a more private area and they said, there's nobody here, just take off your scarf and we'll confirm. And she did that, and after that she went all over Twitter. Her sister got into it saying how that was discrimination and racism. And I'm a little tired of hearing that kind of complaint. I get checked at the airport a lot. I used to travel for work quite a bit, and this was not even international travel. This was travel like Montreal to Toronto, Toronto, Calgary, like that kind of travel. And I was randomly searched. I was asked to, I was singled out for extra special searches where I have to empty out your suitcase, like that kind of thing. And that was domestic flights. So this girl was dealing with an international flight. I was asked as well one time not to smile because my passport photo didn't have a smile. So they asked me not to smile when I was passing through the gate. They stopped me and they said, please, can we, just don't smile. And they compared my face. And it's because I had long hair and my photo in my passport was with my hair tied back. So it didn't quite look exactly like me. And so they just stopped me and they asked me. So I'm a little tired of seeing this kind of article pop up. And it's getting to the point where we have to wonder, is this going to become a major problem? And whenever I see this kind of thing, I always fall back on, well, what does the Islamic doctrine say? Because Muslims, the very definition, what makes them a Muslim, is that they follow the doctrine of Islam. And when you follow the doctrine of Islam, you have to follow a very strict set of rules that are in the Quran, in the Hadith, in the Sirah. And that is how you conduct your life. So in this case, why is it that a Muslim was asked to go aside and take her hijab off? Well, it was to compare her photo. But what are the Muslim and all of their allies trying to make this into? A story of racism, a story of discrimination. The father of this young 12-year-old girl was even brazen enough to go and request that Air Canada makes a large sum donation to make up for this to one of the terrorist attack that happened. I don't know if it was it Baltimore or one of the two. There's so many now. I'm actually losing track of how many terroristic attacks are happening. This one was done by a far right, one was done by a far left. That was all 2 weeks ago. So anyways, this girl blew up all over social media for that issue. And I wanted to point out why this is happening. So part of the Quran addresses how when Muslims are in a position of minority in a space where, they don't have the power, how they have to do this to imitate Muhammad is to be in a position of victimhood. So always cry, oh, you're attacking me because of my religion, you're attacking me because of how I dress, you're attacking me because of I'm a Muslim and you're discriminating against me. So this is what Muhammad did when he was in a position where he was not able to overtake by force the place he was in. Now this all changed later on when Muhammad became a warlord and was able to summon up an army that would go and defend Islam and actually advances quite aggressively and with very much terror. So I'm going to read a little part of the Quran, and I hate that I have to do this. I hate that I have to spend my time learning the Quran and reading about this, but when you understand what's happening, you have to, okay, in the Quran itself, 64% of it is talking about non-Muslims, how to treat non-Muslims. So almost a lot of it, a majority of the Quran is addressing how I am to be treated. So this is why I read the Quran, and I take this book very seriously, because obviously the Muslims are taking it very seriously when they come after me. So here we go. The passage I'm going to read to you is chapter 3, verse 110. Just give me 1 second to bring it up. I know if I was smart, I would have put a sticky note in it and been ready, but okay. So this is chapter 3, verse 110. This is what it says. You are the best community ever brought forth for humankind. So when they say you are the best, that means Muslims are the best. So you are the best community ever brought forth for humankind, commanding right and forbidding wrong and believing in God. If the people of the book, that's the Jews and the Christians, had believed it, it would have indeed had been better for them. Some of them are believers, but most of them are wicked. So this, when you have a verse like this in the Quran that claims Muslims are the best of people, this is why you see that when Muslims come to a Western country, this so-called multiculturalism that they adopt to come here is really a one-way street. So they come here and we are indeed supposed to oblige and abide by their rules, because they're not turning around and abiding by our rules. So an example of this is when you see Muslims telling us that we have to try on the hijab for World Hijab Day, but there is no equivalent day where we say to Muslims, you should all remove your hijabs in solidarity with the Western countries that have adopted you, that have allowed you to come here. Similarly, you'll never hear a Muslim go, oh, today, just in an effort to assimilate and integrate, I'm going to try pork, right? My religion forbids it, but I'm going to try it anyways. And it's always hidden behind the cloak of religion. So my hijab, it's religious. I have to wear it. The pork, it's religious. But what you have to understand is that Islam, the entire doctrine is religious. The religion and the politics are not separated under Islam. It's one thing. So all of the politics are derived from the religious side, which is the commandments of Allah made to Muhammad. And this is how they have developed their doctrine. This is how they have developed their political system, as well as their judicial system, which is called sharia. So sharia is Islamic law. It is technically the path, and the path to what? Well, the path to being the best human you can, and that means emulating Muhammad as much as you can. So we have a woman here, a 12-year-old girl who refuses to take off her hijab or put up a bit of a stink, and was still accommodated within her religion, as in she was brought into a private area to remove her hijab, and this was done so they could verify her identity. It doesn't matter what she thinks. If the border, if the, whatever they're called, the gate agent is asking you to validate your identity by removing your hijab, it doesn't matter. You should remove your hijab. Just like I don't smile when I pass the gate. Just like people who are carrying strollers get boarded first so they can check the strollers, make sure nothing weird is in there. This is the way that they are ensuring that the flight is secure and that everybody on that flight should be on that flight as a registered passenger. This is how they ensure security. So the inconvenience of you having to remove your hijab for a few seconds in a private area is a small price to pay for guaranteed security on that flight. It is something that I would happily do if I was a Muslim that was welcome into a Western country. But you can see how every time this happens, there is a cry of discrimination. There's a cry of racism, even though Islam is not a race, it's an ideology. It's a religion. Part of it is a religion, but it's mostly an ideology. And you cannot be racist against an ideology. There are black Muslims, there are white Muslims. It's not brown Muslims, yellow Muslims, whatever, right? Like, I'm sure that if there were some green aliens that came here, some of them would be converted to Islam or whatever, right? They'd be born in the religion, and then we'd have green Muslims. Like, what? It's not a race thing. I can't understand why racism is even an accusation in this story. It's so nonsensical, but it's because they're banking on the fact that we don't understand Islam. They're accusing us of racism all the time. And this is very, very frustrating. And I think this is yet another example of how Islam is not an ideology that can be integrated into the West. Because think about this. If knowing that Muslims are the best of people, they think they should not abide by our laws and rules. So whenever they are forced to do so, like in this case on Air Canada flight, they get upset because they're like, why should I abide by the rule of a non-Muslim? Like, I'm better than you. Why am I abiding to your rules? This is the mentality. This is what they are taught. And this is from the Quran. So you can yell at me and call me all sorts of names. That's fine. But you still cannot fight the fact that this is in the Quran. And if this is in the Quran, it means it is Islamic. Whatever you think about Islam is irrelevant to almost everybody. I don't even think about Islam. I literally read to you what Islam says. I have no opinion on Islam, aside from the fact that I think it's a terrible ideology, responsible for many, many millions of death across the last 1400 centuries, and I despise it with everything in me, but I don't analyze what is in it. I don't interpret it. I tell you what is in the Quran. In the Quran, it says that Muslims are the best of people, and when Muslims in the West are now forced to adopt our laws, our rules, they get upset. And this is when we hear articles like this come out. How dare they ask me to remove my hijab? I was discriminated against. How dare they search me? I was discriminated against. If this is happening all over, but this is just an example in an airport, but you can see it in multiple areas of our society. Very, very unfortunate. But we have to start thinking about this. What is going to happen if more Muslims come from actual Muslim countries where these kinds of laws are already in force? Muslim countries like Iran or Pakistan, where there are almost no non-Muslims, where everybody else is a Muslim, and they come here and they see non-Muslims and they have to abide by the non-Muslim laws, the kafir laws, if you want. How are they going to react, right? There's going to be more and more of these kinds of articles, and it's going to come to a point where places like Air Canada are going to have to make a decision. Either we keep searching Muslims and get accused of racism, or we just don't search them at all. At which point, the more violent Muslims, the ones that actually want to carry out jihad, will have their opportunity, because now they'll know Muslims won't be searched because it's discrimination, and God forbid we get accused of being discriminatory or racist. That's going to be their opening door. I think in this case, what Air Canada should have done is they should have backed up whoever that gatekeeper was and said, we train our personnel to do this right and to ensure security of everybody while respecting everybody's rights. If there is a true problem, we hope that you would come to us directly, not the media. Like, why is this in the media? Why? There's a reason. I'm saying why as a hypothetical thing. The reason is it's propaganda. They want to propagandize against non-Muslims. They're using our own media against us. You know, guys, you have to wake up to this. But this is what they're doing. They're going to the media. If there was a true discrimination issue, we have a lot of laws in our country that handle true discrimination. So what you should do, if you are truly a victim of discrimination, is start the proper legal way to fight this in a court of law. This is how we handle problems in the West. We go at it that way. So if this was truly a racism issue, if you were truly discriminated against, then what you do is you start a lawsuit against Air Canada. You don't go to the media and you don't go to Twitter to start all these he said, she said kind of scenarios if it was truly a discrimination problem. So this is how I know it wasn't truly discriminatory. This is how I know they are using our own journalism against us to try to make it seem like Muslims are victims. And a lot of people are getting pissed off at this. And I think Muslims, I still think they're welcome here as long as they follow our laws, but you're gonna have to stop screaming discrimination and racism every time somebody questions you or asks you to do something to follow our protocols. This is gonna have to stop, or else we're gonna have to close the borders, because clearly Canada cannot handle Islam. It's incompatible. So either Muslims who come here follow our laws, or we don't accept Muslims anymore. But I don't see how else we're gonna handle this. So let me know what you guys think in a comment, and I will see you in the next one.